For centuries, the people who have lived in Puna, Argentina have managed to sustain their lives, raise their children, and practice their culture through an almost symbiotic relationship with their environment. These communities now find themselves struggling to survive due to the lithium boom. In recent years, the extraction of lithium in Puna's salt flats has exploded. Lithium mining represents huge earnings for national and international mining companies, as well as the Argentine state. Some lawmakers are pushing to nationalize the lithium industry, which could represent $2.1 billion in export for the country over the next 10 years. But for local communities like Guayatayoc, this process drains the water sources that support hundreds of families. Puna is naturally linked to salty plains, where mining companies drill in search of lithium. The process of extracting lithium starts with drilling down into the earth in high-altitude plains. Salty brine is extracted from reserves and stored in surface-level ponds of fresh water. There, the water evaporates over a period of months and leaves behind the lithium. According to the Latin American Observatory for Mining Conflicts, to produce 1 ton of lithium, it is necessary to use 2 million liters of water. Anyone who sets foot on Puna experiences the aridity, lack of oxygen, and extreme temperatures of the plateau. With no easily accessible groundwater, life has always been a challenge for the area's inhabitants. But recently, companies and politicians are taking interest in this seemingly inhospitable land. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, Puna has the second biggest lithium deposit in the world, with over 19 million metric tons of the mineral under the desert soil. With a price of $19,000 per ton, new plans to mine lithium have been proposed in the area. As a result of its value, the term white gold is being used to describe the mineral. Currently, there are only 2 companies exporting lithium: the American Levant and Dead Man Salt Plain, Catamarca Province, and the Australian Orocobre and Olaroz Salt Plain, Jujuy Province. But according to the latest official figures, there are more than 50 extraction projects being analyzed or built in Puna. This could increase Argentina's production from 10% of the world's lithium to make the country one of the world's leaders in lithium production. But production of lithium does not necessarily mean control of the resource. Latin American countries only contribute to the upstream level of the lithium value chain, the simplest stage of the chain that only includes extracting lithium from brines and rocks. The manufacturing of batteries for electronic devices and cars happens mostly in Southeast Asia. The mining projects are making life difficult for the locals who live in an already challenging environment. The average altitude on the Puna Plateau is 3,800 meters, about 12,500 feet above sea level, which makes for low oxygen levels. Water in the area is also scarce, with only 100 millimeters of rain per year in some areas. Some locals depend on underground water collected from wells close to the salt plains. During winter, temperatures drop below -10 degrees Celsius or 14 degrees Fahrenheit. The result is a high-altitude desert where subterranean water currents make life possible in an almost miraculous environmental balance. Every extractive process in these communities has some environmental impact. The debate on extraction methods and its impact on the environment persists, and Guayatayoc communities protest near the company's facilities. Lithium, they claim, cannot leave hundreds of families without water. Along with their neighbors and inhabitants from other communities, they elaborated a document on their right to consultation and free, prior, and informed consent. What the communities want is an official guarantee from the state that their ecosystem won't be affected by the mining process and that the extraction respects their views and relationship with the environment. It does not look like this is forthcoming. Another community lithium extraction is affecting adversely is the Atacama community in Chile. There, in the middle of the world's driest desert, is a vast expanse of turquoise basins, each one like a colossal swimming pool, up to 20 times the size of a football field. The pools are filled with the salty brine pumped up from ancient reservoirs under the desert. It also contains lithium carbonate, the raw material for a light silvery metal that happens to be a component of the batteries now used by virtually all computers, phones, and electric cars. At first glance, Chile's Atacama Desert looks like a barren, inhospitable place. Yet indigenous people and animals have long thrived there. New locals are having to compete with the lithium industry for the desert's limited water resources. Coyo is one of dozens of Lican and Tai communities that live in the desert's small oasis. The community takes turns to tap the San Pedro River. Sometimes they wait for as long as 2 weeks. Members of the community have stated that before the mining companies arrived, there was a lot of water, but mining has consumed the groundwater. The companies even take water from the river, so the farmers don't get the water they need anymore. For the Lican and Tai, water has not only material, but also cultural and spiritual value. They don't just need water to maintain their customs and agriculture. Water is life to them. The young members of the communities have been trying to learn about agriculture, but they face the obstacle that water is getting less. That is the damage that mining companies are doing to these communities. But with the world's largest reserves of the valuable metal, Chile has been called the Saudi Arabia of lithium. Over the last 20 years, 40% of the global lithium supply has come from Chile, and global demand is expected to triple within the next 6 years. The two mining companies operating in the Atacama, Chilean SQM and American Albemarle, pump up nearly 2,000 liters or 530 gallons of brine every second, and more than 63 billion liters in a year. They also use a fair amount of fresh water. To extract lithium from the brine, they use the desert's fierce sun to evaporate up to 95% of the water. Lithium is separated from the residue through a chemical process and converted into the compounds used in rechargeable batteries. According to figures from the Chilean government's Committee on Non-Metallic Mining, between 2000 and 2015, 21% more water was extracted from the Atacama than naturally flowed into the area in the form of rain or meltwater. The companies say extracting brine has no impact on the area's fresh water supply. The salty, mineral-rich brine is not suitable for agricultural or potable use, and we work very closely with the communities to ensure that we operate in a sustainable way, Haley Quinn, communications manager for Albemarle, has said. Several hundred kilometers south of the Atacama Salt Flat, and only a 20th of its size, the Maricunga Salt Flat is also being explored for lithium extraction. Almost all Chile's lithium extraction currently takes place at the Atacama, but the Maricunga is expected to hold the country's next biggest lithium reserves. The Guayatayoc community has already had problems related to their water use, having been investigated for water robbery when locals were suspected of tapping water from reservoirs that did not belong to them. Chile is one of the few countries in the world where water resources and water management are close to 100% privatized. This and the weak protections of indigenous rights go back to the military dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet and the 1980 constitution that is still effective today. Many of the Atacama's indigenous people recognize that climate change is accelerating the water scarcity in the desert, but they say the problems began with the lithium and copper extraction in the area. We want people to know that electric cars are not the salvation for the planet, Jorge Alvarez Sandon, an old member of the Coyo community in the Atacama Desert, said. The salvation is the conscience of every human being to respect the earth like we do. If everyone would be aware of that, we wouldn't need electric cars to save the planet. No truer words have been spoken for these communities than those. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Click on the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. What do you think about these communities? Troubles? Leave your answer in the comment section below. Thank you.